I can't recall repairing or restoring a short receiver on video. The one I've chosen for this repair restoration series is a Bosch model AC31. I've owned it for about 2 years, so it is high time I got stuck in and got it back at least to working order. Okay chaps, what you see here on my bench is a rather tidy looking Bosch radio, model AC31 vintage radio. Its release date was April 1952 and its original price was £16 1 shilling and twopence. That is £16 6p in today's money, plus purchase tax. Being a 3-band receiver, its ranges are 1000 to 2000 metres for long wave, 176 to 575 metres for medium wave, and 14.3 to 35.5 metres for short wave. It incorporates 4 valves including the rectifier. It does not incorporate an audio preamplifier stage such as, for example, a double diode triode. However, use is made of the frequency changer oscillator as an auxiliary input preamplifier. I'll talk more about that particular feature in due course. There is a double diode section. There has to be inside a radio of this type. It is included inside the same glass envelope as the IF amplifier valve, which in this radio is an EBF80. Therefore, it is a short receiver. Now I'll turn this radio round and unscrew the back cover so we can see what it looks like internally. I'd say, looking at this chassis, it is likely there is well over 60 years of dust and crud. The type of grime on these audio related wires is usually associated with open solid fuel fires. It is fair to assume this radio has not seen the inside of a service centre in several decades, if indeed it has ever seen the inside of a service centre. Now I'll prevail upon my beloved to vacuum the dust of this chassis. I can only hope it will not putter about too much. Oh dear. Oh yes, she's a good un. Within less than 5 minutes, the bulk of the dust and crud was gone. My darling wife, being the good-hearted soul she is, went to the trouble of removing the 4 valves, giving them a wash, and putting them back in valve bases. By the look of things, she hasn't as yet mastered where each valve is supposed to go. The rectifier valve is where the frequency changer should be. The frequency changer is where the audio output pentode should be. And the audio output pentode is where the rectifier should be. She has gotten the double diode IF amplifier pentode in its correct valve base. 25% is better than nothing. Now, if I tried my hand at cooking and I attained 2.5%, I regard it as A huge personal achievement. As I started moving valves to their correct bases, I felt it was a good idea to clean and polish their pins with this fibre brush. A quick squirt of oil will soften any crud and debris on the valve base forks. Oops, wrong one. I was doing what my wife was doing. I'd say at least 65% of vintage radio restoration involves cleaning. Now I will remove this chassis from its cabinet. Slowly but surely I'm getting there. The rubber sheathing has decayed. All of this wire will need replacing. Removing the dial light will take time. I've applied a fair amount of penetrating oil onto the nuts. The nuts and screw threads, when I try to rotate them, the threaded part is twisting like a torsion bar. Brass nuts screwed onto steel threads is not the best of combinations, especially in damp conditions. Now I'll apply this 4BA box spanner to undo the nuts holding the loudspeaker onto its baffle board. Certainly a little bit stiff. I'll be back shortly. One very dusty speaker cone, but its speech coil is not binding against the centre magnet. Even the baffle board has its fair share of dust and crud. And there are brass nuts screwed onto steel threads. So that held the loudspeaker in place. Little wonder there was some resistance when I was unscrewing them. Along with a little bit of heat from this soldering iron and a few squirts of 3-in-1 multi-purpose oil, I'm slowly but surely removing the two nuts from this dial lamp holder. I've got one off. Now I just need to get the other one off. Back when I've removed this one. Both nuts now removed from their respective standoffs has enabled me to remove the lamp holder and Paxlin bracket. The lamp is very dusty. I guess this radio spent its final years of everyday operation in some type of industrial environment, such as a workshop, tool making department, stores room, commissioner's weighbridge room, any of those sort of places. In the past I've been sent to sort out televisions in some very dirty houses. I guess it takes all sorts. Note here, it is not good practice to leave a bare speaker cone exposed for longer than is necessary. Cover them over as soon as possible. If a screwdriver or a pair of pliers punctures the paper cone, it will very likely make you feel very angry with yourself. Looking at the underside of this chassis, I've decided to approach this radio repair series in a different way than I usually do. Normally I strip the entire chassis of all its components, then I execute a deep clean of all the metalwork, switches, transformers, whatever can be cleaned. I clean it. Once that is complete, I repair or restore whilst I am reassembling. You've probably seen me do things of that sort with other radios. In this instance, I'll get this radio working. I'll test and replace defective components as I go along through the entire circuit. Once I'm content with how this radio is performing, I'll strip it down to a bare chassis and begin the usual long-winded task of cleaning and reassembling. Once all that is complete, should an IF realignment be warranted, I will realign the IFTs and local oscillator. After tidying the cabinet, it is in reasonably decent condition. There's no reason why I shouldn't have a fairly good looking and performing Bush model AC31 vintage radio. Before starting a vintage radio repair or restoration, gather together those components you know you will definitely require. In this instance, all capacitors having a value over 1 nanofarad will be replaced as standard procedure. Those being the wax coated paper and foil types. Though TCC were very good capacitors in the day, they are now well past their use by. It's quite likely they expired decades ago. The reservoir and smoothing electrolytic capacitors will also be taken out of circuit. I'll very likely retain the aluminium canister for aesthetic purposes, but the audio output valve cathode bypass electrolytic capacitor will definitely be given the heave-o. Also, be equipped with a circuit diagram. Doing that is very important. Unless you have the skill to accurately reverse engineer an entire radio or television circuit, it is unadvisable to attempt a repair or restoration blind. This is the circuit diagram, as I say again, for a Bush model AC31, which is a supplement to the wireless and electrical trader service sheet 1066. Another useful bit of data is for valve pinouts and guides to working voltages. In this instance I will be making use of the Brymer and Edis1 valve data books. Rightio chaps, I say this is as good a place as any to conclude part 1 of this series. I thank you for viewing. Please join me again for part 2, where I will be checking and replacing defective components. Until then, bye-bye from yours truly, Phil.